I'd like to say that I'm excited to go to the Cowboys roster, but completely honest, not really. If you saw the short, I mean, it was premiered and all that. I do recommend going to watch that because I mean, bro, anything's possible. We'll see. Yeah, there's some good things about it. Uh, Off-season short thing in the description if you want like a description of the description of that. Anyway, though, time for the Cowboys roster. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fun NFL. Please like and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoy the Dallas Cowboys 2025 roster grades. And if you have not watched previous roster grades, I made a executive change to have the intro be like a lot shorter. So yeah, if you want an explanation on how these work, go back to the Orphan, which was the Tennessee Titans grades. So you get like a full in-depth thing. I'll try to explain it a little bit here, but like you kind of got to get into this. So. We'll basically get in the quarterback in a very quick second. But if you haven't watched previous, like I said, go watch Titans things. That's how you'll be able to watch it. But basically, you got points for a position. Every position. It goes there. That's for the offense. You do the thing, defense, and then you get this. Again, that corresponds to the letter grade like with this. And then you get the overall grade, which is for this range. And then you get that. With that said, though, let's get into Dak Prescott. So again, I'm sorry, but like, go watch the Titans thing. All right. Cowboys quarterback position. Again, look at Dak Prescott. Last season in, what was it, 9 starts? He didn't have a very good season. The numbers are not great. This is very similar to what he did in 2023. Not 2022, my bad, when he didn't really put up the greatest numbers. No one was really like that impressed by him. Again, he choked in the playoffs. But last year, he hurt his ankle or his knee or something like that. And yeah, he got injured in those eight starts. And yeah, he didn't look very good. But again, 2023 was a bona fide MVP candidate. He throws the ball over the middle as good as really any quarterback. Very good in anticipation, not elite though. Solid arm, not a great deep ball, all that things. Dak's been around a while. We all know it. Cowboys haven't made the NFC Championship game, and it will be 30 years if they're able to do it somehow in 2026. But with Dak specifically, he is not the greatest guy, but like I said, again, kind of a down year last year, again, after a 2023 season where he was great. Like, that's just kind of how it is. All right, Joe Milton, they traded him after he had a huge game versus the Bills in a very meaningless Week 18 game. He threw a touchdown. He looked awesome. Pretty consistent. He also ran the ball a couple times, had a touchdown that's on the ground as well. He's got an insane arm, one of the best arms in the entire NFL. Again, he was never really that great of a thrower at Tennessee, but again, the fact that he looks like he's developed is something good. But again, if Dak gets injured, and he has suffered several major injuries. Really, not only one major, but he's suffered a good amount of injuries in his career. He's a guy that I think, again, at least is going to be a high-ceiling backup. Will Grier is the third quarterback. I have not heard about Will Grier since 2019 when he was absolutely awful in 2 starts. For the Panthers that year. That was the last season. That was like when Cam Newton was still their quarterback, like a really long time ago. But yeah, he was not good against the. You got to get the start against the Colts, threw 3 picks, and they got blown out at 38-6. Then the next week played a little bit and wasn't good either. With that said, though, Cowboys quarterback room overall, I'm gonna give them a B. Dak, guys, what he played, again, not a great season last year, so this is probably down from what, again, it might have been last year. But again, even if Joe Milton's in, you can't really be like too dependent on him like coming in and being okay if Dak does get injured, because again, the Dak injury risk is a thing there as well. But again, considering how Dak played last year, I think it is fair to give them a B grade at quarterback. But I'd put him in the B tier, like if we looked at actual tier rankings, maybe not. But again, if you're the Cowboys right now, and you're like, is Dak's obviously a franchise guy, but is there better guys that have than him? Absolutely. So I think a B is fair. I think I might move that up to a B plus if I really think about it. But that might be overrated him. I don't know. Dak's a good quarterback, guys. But like. We all know, like in the playoffs and all that, and like especially coming off last year, where it was kind of like definitely a lot worse than we saw in 2024, despite again him getting injured and stuff. I'm just gonna stick with a B for now. Again, I think that's where we're gonna sit. With that said, a lot faster now. Let's get into the skill positions. All right, looking at the skill positions for the Cowboys, starting out with running back. Again, this is probably the worst running back room in football. I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys. Javonte Williams has not been good since he tore his ACL in 2022. Last year was his high. No, it wasn't even his highest usage season. Never mind. But 2021, he had a monster season. He broke like 50-something tackles or something crazy like that. It was crazy. Broken tackles. Jesus. What is it called? Broken tackles per attempt sort of rate for him in 2021. He also, like, his yards after contact per attempt was crazy as well. He had an insane year. No one really thought him as, like, a sort of a breakaway runner, but again, also as a receiver, as a guy who could make some plays underneath. Again, he just simply broke tackles at a rate that we really didn't have, like, don't see a lot, so that's good about him. But again, like I said, week 4, 2022 against the Raiders, he tore his ACL. The past 2 years, he's been even less explosive than he was coming into the league, and he's just been kind of straight up trash. And again, he's just not a guy, again, he was the starting running back for the Broncos for a while in those 2 years, and he just was completely terrible. Like, he's not a good player. Miles Sanders completely has been just not very good after getting that big contract from the Panthers, who I think caught him or something like that. Again, he had that monster season with the Eagles in 2022. Again, Jalen Hurts, that was like his MVP first coming out breakout sort of year from him. Again, he was never like, I guess in 2021 he wasn't great. I mean, the line for the Eagles really ever since, again, the second half of 2020 has been a really good group. So that's good to mention. But like, again, crazy year with the Eagles in 2022, but since then it's done absolutely nothing. Never has been really that a receiver. After his first year, we had 50 catches and 509 yards. But again, Miles Sanders is a backup. I wouldn't say he's the worst guy because even last year he was, I guess, somewhat serviceable, but he has just not been a good, very productive player the past few years. You got Jaden Blue, who I'm not the biggest fan of. I really didn't even think he was like a top 12 running back coming in. But I mean, he does have some explosive ability. I mean, he did a little bit for Texas there in the playoffs. But like on film, he doesn't really pop up the screen. He's not a guy that I'm too concerned about destroying the ends or anything like that. Deuce Vaughn, I'm actually surprised he's still on this team. I thought they might have signed someone. I don't even know, boot him off. Nothing again. Deuce Vaughn's a guy that I actually like. I think he's again, at least coming out like this guy's a dog, but he struggled with injury a little bit. He is 5'6". That's just going to be the simple truth. Again, when you tackle him, you're going to wrap him up. Like, it's pretty simple just because of his size. By him being, like, probably the best 5'6" NFL player we've ever seen. So, I don't want to take that away from him. But, like, guys, this running back room is just completely – it's not the answer. I'm giving it an F. I don't think I've given an F yet to a single position, but there's a first time for everything. So, what are we going to move that up to a 20? Yeah. Complete 0 at running back. I really didn't want to do that, but, like, I mean, guys, like – it's a pretty bad. I mean, maybe you can give it a D- or a D if you're like, if I'm being nice, but I'm not being nice, guys. It's a D. I don't know, it's an F. Yeah, they don't get any points for running back. This is like about as bad as it gets. I don't really know what else to say. Like this, neither Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders would be considered good backups. Like, don't even care about starters. All right. Looking at receiver now. CeeDee Lamb's a top 5 receiver in football still. He had still a really good year last year. Again, it probably wasn't anything close to what he did in 2023, but still was an insane season with Cooper Rush as the quarterback for them for most of the season. I will say he got double teamed like almost every single route, but his release package I think is definitely a lot more nuanced than what we might have thought coming into the season. He like improved that part of his game. Again, as a deep ball catcher, I think that's something he still could get better at. But again, he's gonna make big plays. He's just so good with the again, route complexity and just overall timing again. And then when you look at some other things, body control is great. I mean, it's CeeDee Lamb, guys. He's the top 5 receiver in football. George Pickens, he's one of the harder guys to talk about because he's so talented and so explosive in a lot of ways. And again, he had a monster 2023 season where he had 18.1 yards per catch. But again, last season he didn't really play his greatest. He's never been the most consistent route runner. He does create good separation, which is something that I think a lot of people don't talk about. But I think he's a guy who's just kind of like build off his route tree and maybe use that to his advantage so he can become a little bit more of a consistent receiver. I never think he'll be anything more than maybe an 80 catch receiver at his best. But again, if they give him the targets, I don't really see a reason why he can't have a breakout season for sure. Because, yeah, 2023 was really good, but again, there's definitely another level for him. Again, he's a really talented player. Again, to talk about the offseason, off-field stuff and maybe there's behavior issues and all that, I really don't care because, again, him and Dak work together well, it'll be a good year. Jalen Tolbert had his first year. Again, there were a lot of Cowboys fans talking about, this guy's a good depth piece. Really didn't do much the first, 2-ish years with them. But again, last year showed a little bit more that contested catchability that we saw, again, when he was coming out. But outside of that, guys, I don't know. Jalen Tolbert, I think you could probably say the third receiver at this point because, again, he was, again, with CeeDee Lamb out a little bit last season. He was asked to do a lot, and I think he definitely did enough for that. I wouldn't call him, a great third receiver, but I think, again, as an average sort of, position there for him, I think that's pretty fair to say because he did play pretty well last year. Kevontae Turbin, again, he's one of the fastest players in football. Really just underneath route runner. He's probably got 3 or 4 routes that I'd be pretty confident in him running consistently. But like I said, he's a returner. That's really what he's on this team for. But again, if they can use him as a gadget player, it could be very valuable for them. And you got Jonathan Mingo, who they traded for. He's not a very good player. He wasn't good as a rookie. He really wasn't good at all last year either. Again, I guess he did a decent job. With the Cowboys at the end of the year, but yeah, Jesus, this is a guy who, again, I didn't really think was that great coming out of Ole Miss, and he really hasn't done much in his career at all. Maybe he'll be a good depth piece though. Jalen Brooks played a little bit; he was not good. Paris Campbell couldn't stay healthy. He played with the Colts in 2022, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. That was the one year he started. Yeah, again, I don't think he was bad that year. He went to the Giants. Wasn't very good, and then the Eagles last year didn't play at all either. Again, I don't think he's a guy. Again, there's a reason he hasn't played really at all the past 3 years. And he's just not that good. But still, he was definitely talented coming out. Calvin Harmon, I'm shocked still in the league. Josh Kelly, I think used to be a running back. That might be a different guy because they got super common in there. Then Ryan Flournoy is not great either. But this receiving room, I'm gonna give them a B plus because I think they have a really good top 3. The depth after that's a little bit shaky, though. You could argue it's in the A tier, but, like, guys, I don't really know if that's, like, truly fair to say. Again, it's a solid. I like this receiving room a lot, though. Like, definitely a really good group. You could put it in the A tier if you wanted to. I'm going to be, like, too mad about that, but I'm going to say maybe at a little bit better depth and maybe a better third option. I mean, again, like, you could probably argue it's A tier. I'm going to say a B+, though. Screw it, it's an A-. I like this receiving core. Yeah, just good vibes with it. 30 points there. Then we look at the tight end position, which does have some questions with it in terms of, again, if Jake Ferguson's able to bounce back. Because last season, he didn't have his greatest year, didn't catch a single touchdown after a 2023 season where he had a big year. He's never been the greatest blocker, so that's, again, another thing to talk about with him as well. Again, a lot of value comes as an underneath receiver. Is he going to really be able to use that this year? Because, again, he didn't really break tackles too well last year. Hunter Lubick, you could argue, was actually more of a valuable player in terms of this scheme. I think he'll definitely bounce back, but it wasn't a good year. Luke Schoonmaker, he definitely is a guy that I think could be a good yak receiver underneath, but he just doesn't have a big route tree simply because he just doesn't have the speed to really get open downfield. Maybe a couple those like middle of the field routes that could work with him, but like in terms of like level concepts and maybe running a smash with him, it's just not going to work too well. Brevin Spanford and John Stevens Jr., I'd be shocked if they got really any reps in the regular season. Maybe they will, I don't know. But overall, this tight end room is just not that moving for me. Again, especially with what's his name? Jake Ferguson coming off a bad season. I think maybe you could give it the B tier if you wanted to, but again, just Jake Ferguson wasn't great last year, so I'm going to say a C+ for now. That's going to be 12 points. And then when we look at the next thing, we got the offensive line, which is coming up now. O-line for the Cowboys is definitely something that you got to be pretty happy with. I mean, there's some guys that I'm not the biggest fan of. First off, Tyler Guyton last year wasn't the greatest. I think after, he got his welcome to the NFL moment against, what's his name, Myles Garrett last year. But again, overall, I still think, again, there's definitely some, he had a decent year overall, though, for, like, considering his expectations. Again, he was kind of, I wouldn't say a raw guy, but definitely not a guy you, like, really want to start. Day one, again, that's why they signed Chuma Dogo over from the Jets. But again, he got injured, so they need Tyler Guyton to step up. And I think, he did a decent job. He actually sustained blocks pretty well, which, again, is something you really need out of your starting left tackle. But at the same time, like, run blocking was pretty bad as expected coming out of Oklahoma. But on, like, a lighter note, I think that if he's able to, his hand placement gets a little bit better, and he's able to, again, kind of match some of those power rushers, that'll really help him out. But again, overall, again, pretty solid year for, again, a rookie who, again, we really weren't too, like, fond of him starting. CM Richards, I think, is a guy who definitely has the talent to start, but he really has never gotten a shot. And again, in this preseason where I've seen some snaps and maybe some OTA film, he definitely hasn't been the greatest. So again, I think some consistency left to help him out a lot. But again, that's really what kept him. I won't say keeping him in the league, but again, keeping him on. Again, hope for the Cowboys to be a solid backup. Tyler Smith, one of the better guards in football, very versatile, and again, how you use him as a run blocker. That's why they have like 4 different what is it called, concepts they can use consistently. But at the same time, like with the running back room they have, I don't think his yards created per before contact per attempt is gonna be something that, again, that'll really be too affected. So again, that is good, but like I don't know, we'll see how they use Tyler Smith this year again. But he's a tremendously talented player. Robert Jones, really good backup. Shaq Charles, I wouldn't call him a good Charles at all. Not good Charles, a good backup, but at the same time, like he's played a little bit, it'll give you something. Cooper Beebe had a really nice rookie season. I think there were some times where I'm like, maybe again, second, third year there he would have made that block, but at the same time, like, what am I going to talk about him again? Second round pick at center, like, what else are you going to ask from him? He was great. Dakota Shepley's not great. He just simply doesn't really hold up against some of these higher level interior guys. From what I've seen so far, it's just a little bit of an unknown as well. Tyler Booker, I didn't love that pick that they made with him, but again, he was one of the better interior offensive linemen in the class. I don't think he provides the same ceiling that a guy like Ray Zabel does for you, but at the same time, like, again, he can't be that bad, right? I mean, like, he held up against the best SEC interior guys, so that's got to mean for something. No, but I don't expect really average defense maybe be anything more than maybe a little bit above average player. But again, if he's able to consistently, open the hole up for these running backs, that could definitely be valuable. It definitely will be. Brock Hoffman, solid backup. Terrence Steele's really good right tackle. Again, isn't a great pass blocker, but he works. You got Matt Walsh-Checo, I cannot pronounce his name, but he fits the scheme pretty well as well. All right. Again, for Brian Schottenheimer in this offense, I'd probably say this offensive line, again, for what it is really good. I'm gonna give them a B+. I think that might be a little bit high, but again, they got 3. It's a young group. I'm gonna say a B+ though, because Terrence Steele and Tyler Smith are very, very good. Again, they've got a lot of young guys though, so maybe I'm gonna say a B for now, because they weren't fantastic last year. So I'm going to say 22 points. That might be a little bit low. No, that's 16 points. A little bit low, but I think I'll stick with that. On any other, something else, looking, Brian Schottenheimer in this offense. We'll get in the identity later, but I think this is definitely a group that I think should be a lot more successful than they were last year on a whole note. But again, they've always been able to be productive, put up points. They come out with 98 total points, though, because again, like I said, they have 0 running back. This is a worse situation they had last year. I'm very confident on that. But 98 points in this group will give them a C+, which I think is fair. That's not really where they actually are, though, because, again, let's be honest, the receiving core is really good. Tight end, I think, is projected to be better. The line's pretty good. And quarterback situation is, again, also pretty good. So this is really just because I don't think they have a running game right now. Unless, again, one of these running backs steps up, I don't see anything changing. So C+. Again, this offense, again, every year that Dax has been healthy, they've been one of the most productive in terms of statistics. Again, but again, playoffs and stuff, so I don't really know. But we're going to stick at a C+ for this overall offense. Let's look at this defense. Starting out with the front seven. Cowboys run a 4-3, sort of. Again, we'll definitely get more into that again when we get to the linebackers. But looking at this defensive line, Dante Fowler Jr. last season, I think, had a really great season. I do think that it was he was, honestly, I'm truly going to say this. For the first 8 or so games for the Commanders last year, he was on track to be I wouldn't say maybe first team All-Pro, but definitely an All-Pro type of season. Still put up pretty solid numbers overall at the end of the season, but I think, again, the pass rush numbers in terms of the pressure rate went down a lot, and yeah, the film definitely didn't look as explosive per se, but he still had a phenomenal year, and his best year for sure since he had the Rams in 2019, even though, yeah, there were a couple years with the Cowboys, especially 2022, where I think he still had a solid year, but he's definitely not a guy who's going to be a number one guy, but again, coming back here to the Cowboys, he's not going to be asked to do that. I would expect him to be a little bit more consistent off the edge, though, as a guy who can really get, like, true Robin sort of numbers out of him. I expect that a lot there. We'll get the interior in a minute. Donovan Azirika, cannot pronounce his name. He's got violent hands. That's his best trait. As an athlete, I think he might be a little bit overrated because on film it doesn't really jump off the page as well. The measurables are pretty solid though. RES doesn't love him though, so again, kind of like contrasting opinions there. But honestly, same thing. Like on film, like I said, violent hands. He's got 2 or 3 really solid moves. I'll really like to see how he develops in terms of his leverage game because yes, he's really good with his arms in terms of matching with the O-linemen, anticipating him doing. But at the same time, maybe like that extra swipe would really help him against the run. But he'll be, I think, a solid run defender. Micah Parsons, we all know about Micah Parsons. He's one of the most athletic players in football. He's an elite edge rusher. He's speed to power, best at that too. He's one of the best players in the entire league, if not, I wouldn't say the best, but again, one of the best. Don't need to talk about him much. The numbers were down a little bit. Who cares? Marshall Newland, very disappointing rookie season. Again, this is a guy that I liked a lot out of Western Michigan because he just had that dog in him. There's really no other way to put it. Yeah, on film there were some concerning things about his pass rush development as a rookie. But again, the profile wasn't actually bad at all. But last year he just simply didn't really do much at all. As a run defender, he was somewhat effective, which is what you did want out of him. But he really did not get pressure consistently. He's got to be better. He had a really consistent opportunity to do well last year. Payne Turner, one of the biggest busts of the wild. Part of the reason the Saints have kind of been in this downward spiral for long and agonizing downward spiral is because they picked him. He's just not good. I don't want to get into it. He's just not a good player. Sam Williams, he had a really nice 2023 season. Yeah, again, very consistent pass rusher, very good depth piece. Again, I think very underrated. Again, he got injured last year, though, so I don't know if you may have seen the same player, but you got really good pressure rates out of him, again, when you rotated him. But overall, very deep edge rushing group for sure. Like, I like this a lot, even though, again, a guy like Marshall Leland could be better. He just didn't really have a good year. All right, Mozzie Smith is horrible. It's not his fault. Let's be completely honest. It's probably 6% his fault. The Cowboys do not know what the hell they're doing with how they use him. Again, pretty simply, they got to figure out how to use him because, yes, last year's a run defender. I think he was a little bit better. Still not what you want from, what was it, the number 26 pick? Yeah, he's been atrocious as a pass rusher as well. They do not use him right. They're trying to put him in 3-tech, outside guy. That's not what he's got to be, guys. He is going to be a straight-up run defender. Put him there. Let him do his thing. Reap the benefits, even though, again, he's played very poorly so far in his career. I think I moved on from just being, oh, yeah, this guy sucks. More to the fact that, again, the Cowboys don't use him right. Oso Odigizua, all right, so I don't really think 2022 is probably his best season. I think comparing all 3 films like kind of simultaneously, I think 2022 is probably his best season. But the past 2, again, very similar. It's not like that big of a difference. He's a really solid defensive tackle. I'm beyond maybe calling him like maybe becoming an elite guy, but he's very good. Solomon Thomas, you still see that talent from the number 3 pick a little bit, but at the same time, like he's kind of moved on to being a backup guy that might give you quality play once in a while. Jay Tua, oh yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. He's a guy at UCLA that really isn't going to do anything much more than stop the run. But I mean, that's better than what Mozzie Smith's done. I'm joking. But still, this defensive line as a whole is really good. Outside of, it's not really good. It's got some really darn good players. But again, considering you got Mozzie Smith playing so poorly, I think that's going to hold them back a little bit. I'm going to say they get a B- on this D line. That might be a little bit unfair, but this run defense just isn't really jumping off the page to me right now. So I'm going to say B9, 6, 12, and 14 points. But then we look at the pass rush, it's got to be a B+, because, like, The edge rushing group is really good. I like it a lot. Osa is going to give you penetration at the very least, and Solomon Thomas will give you rotational juice once in a while. And yes, Mozzie Smith is really not, just hasn't been good yet, and Jay Chua will not be a pass rusher. But like, yeah, the interior is a little bit weak, but I think again, when we get off the edge, you got to at least give it a B plus, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be 32 points. And then we look at linebacker position for them. This is a group that is not the greatest overall. Kenneth Murray really has just not been an average player in football. I think last year was probably his most productive overall. He showed a little bit more instinct, instincts, which I like a lot, but he still wasn't a very good tackler. He's never been good in coverage. Again, very big disappointment for the Chargers, obviously. But I think last year overall was a little bit better of a year. Damone Clark can't stay healthy. He had a really nice 2023 season where you really gave him solid play. Last year, though, again, he didn't kind of like lost his starting job, to be honest with you, and he just really wasn't very good. So I just got to see him be a little bit more fast-paced and not play as slow. Again, the reaction time could be a little bit better. It's not his instincts because he's always got natural instincts, but I think just him trusting himself a little bit more is going to be something that could really help him maybe get out of this rut he's in. Jack Sanborn's just a football player. I don't really know how to play. You watch him play, you're like, yeah, that guy's just, I wouldn't call him average even. He just, he's just out there and he's playing. He's always been a guy who's been really smart. He's going to clean up more than anything. As a true middle linebacker, I might not trust him because you really don't want him playing too much man coverage. That's going to hurt you a lot. But again, schematically, he fits in a lot of different areas, so we'll see how they use him. Shamar James, I'm be honest, guys, I really don't care. He's out of Florida. I was very disappointed watching him on film. Like, I had a lot of good things to talk about with him prior to the start of, again, the 2024 college football season. But he really just didn't play that well. And again, like, a lot of the things I liked with his coverage ability really didn't show up. And also, again, he just wasn't very effective last year. Again, he's got some stuff to work on. Again, he's definitely talented enough to maybe, once we crack the starting lineup, but get in some sort of role. But we'll see how that works out. DeMarvin Overshown, let's be honest, guys. He was probably the most dynamic linebacker in football before he got injured last year. Like, I'm not legitimately saying that. Like, he was that good. Yeah. Some of the things, like, in terms of, again, I would say, don't compare him to Funga, but, yeah, some of those over-aggression things were definitely there. In coverage at times, he might not have been the most disciplined, but, like, guys, he was just freaking all over the place. And he was so impactful for this defense. Again, he was legit borderline an all-pro caliber player last year. That's how good he played. But, again, the injury and stuff is, like, very concerning. Again, he was just flying over the field. That's, like, that was the scouting report. He's going to be a freaking missile. Is going to be good? Probably not. But, again, it worked into his advantage last year. He's probably, outside of Micah Parsons, the most dynamic guy in this entire defense. I don't know if we'll see that next year, but it was insane what we saw. Maurice Leofau, I think, is a very solid player, really good depth piece for this team. He just simply doesn't make many mistakes, but at the same time, like, yeah, he's not going to be the greatest in zone just because, again, there's some definitely limitations with him. But like I said, just doesn't make many mistakes, very solid player. I like the depth a lot just because, again, they got guys like Damone Clark who's shown ability to be capable at this level. Shamar James, like, he's got enough talent to be good at this level, and you got Maurice Leofau, who's been really solid for them. So, the starters, Jack Sanborn's okay. Norman Overshown has been at this, but I don't really know if we'll see that. And Kenneth Murray's definitely disappointing. So, very deep linebacking core. I think I'll give them a B. That might be a little bit high. Honestly, I'm going to stick at a B- because there's a lot of unpredictability. But the depth is really good. And again, I said, like, there's definitely some guys that aren't great in here. But again, overall, you got to be pretty encouraged if you're a Cowboys fan with this linebacking core. 21 points. Now let's look at this secondary. Moving into this cornerback room, I'm just going to start out with Trayvon Diggs. Last season, he just wasn't that great. Again, I get he tore his Achilles or his ACL, something like that in 2023, which, again, really, I think definitely held him back a little bit. We didn't see that same, maybe, anticipation and aggression, especially. Again, he really played, like, great in 2022, though. Like, kind of, like, was starting to become that guy. Like, yeah, he's your number one cornerback. But again, 2023 injury and all wasn't, again, like, just wasn't the same player last year. And he also, again, like I said, man coverage, he got beat deep a lot, which is what we saw in 2021. But at the same time, I don't really think, again, he was overly bad last year by any means. But again, definitely wasn't a good season from him. He's definitely got some bouncing back to do. Deron Bland also wasn't very impressive last year. More to the fact that he kind of was, I wouldn't call him a bystander. Again, the injuries were definitely like holding him back, but he just wasn't that. Just was not the player he was in 2023. I think, yeah, there were times where, again, he got completely burned, partly because he's just not a very big corner. What is he, 5? Yeah, he's 6 foot, 197. He does not play like that. Again, he's more of a, I'm going to figure it out pre-snap and, like, who cares after that sort of guy. And that is not a great thing to play by. But again, like I said, in coverage overall, again, he's not the most talented. So, again, that's part of it as well. But, again, at the same time, like, he was great in 2023 overall. Last season just wasn't that same player. So, again, also needs some bouncing back. But I think, again, a little bit less of a fall off than maybe Trayvon Diggs on, like, an overall note. Siobhan Rebel Jr. is probably a guy that I really like. This guy, the injury is what held him back. He's not the brightest wolf by any means, but this guy can just flat out ball. Last year, East Carolina, before he got injured, he was absolutely just insane. He has the physical tools. He is super physical. Great technique for a guy that I don't think has really gotten any of the coaching that I think is necessary for him to maybe reach his potential. Nothing, again, against East Carolina coaching. I just don't think, and he really just got that just yet. Whether it's his fault or not, again, it's kind of how it is. But he's tremendously talented. I really expect a lot out of this guy. Like, I'm very high on him. Kalen Carson, last year, again, I don't think he was bad. Like, some people were really crapping on him. He got injured. Really didn't play great, I guess. But this is a guy, he matched up pretty well against some good players. Like, especially against those bigger, faster receivers. He can take advantage of that. And also is very very natural with his hip fluidity, which is nice to see. Israel Mukambu. I cannot pronounce his name. There we go. He is not a guy that you want in the slot. I don't really know the right way to put it. He's just not great. In coverage, yeah. He's overall going to give you solid play, but he's just not a starting caliber player. I just don't know how to put it. Just not worth it. But again, they have Kemon Hall, who could be okay. Again, I don't really think they have a true slot right now, which is a little bit of an issue. We'll get into their safeties in a minute. Kyrie Elam, again, huge bust. I was right about him. I hope I'm right about Trey Amos, too. But, yeah, again, I guess I was right about him. Honestly, at this point, I hope he plays well. But, again, I was right about him with the Bills. That was not a good pick. All right, cornerback for the Cowboys, a lot lower than it was. I'll still give them a B, though, because, like, I really like what they've got going on. Yeah, despite Deron Bland and Trevon Diggs probably not being the same duo they were coming in last year, I'm going to stick with a B, though, because, like, again, they're still really good players, despite, you know, again, just not playing average cornerback level last season. All right, safety. Donovan Wilson, I don't know, not knowing they got rid of Jerron Kearse. He is not, like, a quality, what is it called, coverage guy, but as a box safety, he's very solid. And, again, he can be moved around, though. Like, the zone coverage is still solid enough where, again, you can definitely work with that. And he's always been a good playmaker, so, again, starting safety, like, very good. Malik Hooker, like I said, could not stay healthy with the Colts. The Cowboys pick him up. 2021 didn't really play a lot. The past 3 years, he's been a starter for them, and every year he's gotten consistently better. Last year, I don't think the film might have been as, like, shown maybe the same range that we saw in 2023, but I definitely think I saw a little bit more natural, like, comfortability in this scheme. Not this scheme. The defensive coverage sets a lot, but at the same time, like, Malik Hooker is just, he's got the talent, so you're definitely see it. Marquise Bell is a guy that I think could actually form into the slot corners for them. Again, he used to play linebacker, not a very big guy, for again, a safety. He didn't play a lot last year, really, at all. I don't think he really had a shot because he's still moving positions. But at the same time, for Marquise, he's got a lot of work to do still. But I honestly think, again, if they get in this right, the right positions for him, he could be a guy that I think could be really effective in the slot. With that said, though, again, Juan Thomas is still trying to prove himself, and they got some other two guys that'd be shocked if they're anything more than special teamers this year. But at safety, I'm gonna give them a B because I like what's going on. They got really two solid starters. The depth could be better though, so yeah, I'm gonna stick with a B. 9, 18, 24 points, and then we look at the overall defensive grade. We're just gonna add secondary there, 32. 14, 21. That's going to give us 107 points for this Cowboys defense. That is going to put them in the C-plus tier as well, which at the same time, I can kind of see working there. Anyway, though, let's get into this special teams unit. Again, that'll also lead us into some other things before we figure out the overall grade is. Special teams for the Cowboys. Brandon Aubrey's probably the best kicker in football. We all know that. Like, biggest leg for sure. I mean, like, you know, he's just insane. Used to play soccer, all that. Like, yeah, he's just a dude. Brian Inger, I'm not some punting expert, like, by any means, but, like, the numbers-wise, again, where he ranks in the league, and also, like, from what I've heard, solid, really solid punter, and obviously he has the credentials as well. Kalani Turbin, one of the fastest, most dynamic returners in the league, and you just watch his highlights, crazy. Trent Sieg, good long snapper. Overall, this Cowboys special team unit is very, very good. I'll give them an A-, because, you know, the Bengals game, I don't know. No, screw it, give them an A. They're a good group. 11 points there for the special teams unit. Depth, all right, let's go by position. Quarterback depth, I'd give a B-. That might be a little bit high, but I think Jonah Milton doesn't warrant that. Running back depth, is there even depth? I mean, I guess there is, so I guess we'll give that a C-. I don't know. At this point, probably a C+, to be honest, though. Receiver depth isn't actually too awful. I'd probably give it a C- as well. We're going to say that's a C. Tight end depth is probably a C. No, D+. We're probably down to a C-. O-line depth, I'd give a B. So we're up to, I'd probably say a C at this point. D-line depth overall, I'd probably say is a B. So we're probably up to a C+. Linebacker depth, I'd give an A-, which is going to put them probably up to B-. Yeah, B- there. And then we look at cornerback depth. Again, I think I'm not going to try to overrate it, but I'd say it's overall probably a B-ish. So we're probably, again, still at a B-. Safety depth, I'd probably give a C+-ish. So honestly, I think a B would be fair. I think the Cowboys have a B depth. Again, there's no position that I really am like looking at, and I'm like, is like there's like a freaking whole huge drop off. But yeah, there are some like tight ends a little bit of an issue. But again, like even a receiver, it's not the worst. So again, you can kind of work with that. Just really unproven there. And on defense, I mean, maybe safety, but that's probably pushing it because, yeah, like Marquise Bell, he'll work there. And then even Juan Thomas, I'm comfortable with. So I'm going to say a B there. That's going to be maybe a little bit generous, but I'll work with it. That's going to be 12, 24, and 28 points for, Jesus. 28 points for the depth. And then we look at identity. All right. Brian Schottenheimer, the head coach, is definitely an interesting choice of a hire. We'll definitely get more into him when we do the head coach tier rankings right before the season starts. But on this offense, if Dak stays healthy, I'm very positive that this offense will be very back to where, they've always been good statistically since, Kellen Moore came in a while back. But with this running back room just being honestly worse than it was last year, I'm not very confident in this being a great group. But with a solid offensive line, a really good receiving core, a really inspiring receiving core, and then some other things, I think this offense will outperform this C+. Even like the playoffs and stuff, these big games, will they really be able to do that? I don't know, but I do expect them to be pretty darn good this year. Defensively, again, it's kind of like a thing of like, really, is this group that good? Like, that's really where it is. Because they got a lot of good players, but like, is it going to work out? Stuff like that. Again, it should be fine, but again, with the identity of this team, I'll actually give them a B-. I think they're a little bit better than when they've been in the past, but like at the same time, it's probably going to be the same old team, even if they have a lot of success. With all that said, though, B-, 35 points for the identity of the Cowboys. Let's see what this overall roster grade is. And after putting the point totals together, we can come up to 279 points for the Cowboys. That will put them in the 279 B- tier. I think that's fair. Cowboys roster, I think, is a little bit overblown about how good it is, but at the same time, like, there are a lot of star players. Not a lot. There are star players on this team. And again, there's a lot of young guys that I'm excited about as well, which again is a good combination. But like with no running backs, again, they just had something at running back, they'd be probably around a B, which is probably where they should be. But again, I'm just not the most confident in this team. I'm not gonna say it was like much worse than it was last year. But like at the same time, like Dak not really coming off of the greatest season, even though he got injured and stuff. I think this is fair where they sit. Again, this is a Cowboys team that's kind of in a little bit of a shuffle. Some people are really not high on them at all. I think they'll have definitely a decent season, but who am I to say that? We'll see how it goes. But yeah, all about the Cowboys. Again, if you wanted a higher grade, I don't know. I didn't hate on them that much, right? I think I did a decent job with that. That was for the offseason short. That's all I got for the Cowboys. And here's the next team, and it's very obvious.
On Monday night here in SoFi. 4th and 2, Burrow. Deep shot. Higgins is open. Got it. Touchdown. Cincinnati. Right back in it.
Completely doubled up. No chance to be able to get this. But on the far side, T. Higgins is going to get basically the same thing, but it's an in and out coverage and that little double wiggle right there.